Welcome to Friday. You made it to the end of the week. And as you know, we wear red on Friday. That's what we do here at Cyber-Recon. I'm Jim, and welcome to your Friday edition of the Cup of Cyber. Today, we're going to jump into explaining what all is in Domain 1 of the CompTIA Security Plus exam. So we're going to dive into this one. So stay with us. We'll be right back. We'll be right back after the brief intro. All right, we have our cup of illy in our Salt Lake City coffee cup today because I guess no better reason than it's don't go to work unless it's fun day. I guess it's a perfect day for Friday. Don't go to work unless it's fun day. Friday, April 3rd every year. So today we're going to jump into it. We are still talking about Security Plus. Let's take and make that not so gigantic on the screen maybe, huh? There we go. We'll get it the right size. So, talking about Domain 1. And when we look at Domain 1, we know the Security Plus exam is 90 questions long, and it takes 90 minutes to complete. Domain 1 is about 21% of our total exam. It's going to end up being about 19 questions, give or take a few, that are going to be wrapped up in this domain, which covers threats, attacks, and vulnerability. So let's dive into looking at what this domain is made of. So our subdomain 1.1, or this topic, is given a scenario, analyze indicators of compromise, and determine the type of malware. So in this part, we're going to be able to tell the difference between all of these different types of malware. Each of them has their own unique characteristics. They're going to allow you to pick it out from a lineup. So when you get done with studying for the exam, you're going to want to be able to tell the difference between everything listed on this. Be able to tell the difference between a virus, be able to tell the difference between a virus, crypto malware, ransomware, worms, trojans, rootkits, keyloggers, adware, spyware, bots, rats, logic bombs, and backdoors. Those should all come off your tongue easily and be able to tell the difference between each of those. 1.2 is a big subdomain. It's got a lot of stuff in it. This is where we cover our social engineering. And there's a lot of stuff wrapped up into social engineering, like what are the types of social engineering? You know, phishing, spear phishing, whaling, vishing, tailgating, impersonation, dumpster diving, shoulder surfing, hoaxes, watering hole attacks, all those different types of social engineering. Tell the difference between them. Tell what's different between phishing and whaling. Tell the difference between dumpster diving and shoulder Tell the difference between dumpster diving and shoulder surfing. Figure out why are they effective? What are the principles of social engineering? What makes it effective? Why can a bad guy get a user to click on a link? Authority, intimidation, consensus, scarcity, familiarity, trust, urgency. Know what all those things are. They're going to help to get you through the exam. That's not all. 1.2 keeps going on. So we're going to talk about application service attacks, denial of service attacks, distributed denial of service attacks, man in the middle, buffer overflow, injection, cross-site scripting, cross-site request forgery, privilege escalation, ARP poisoning, amplification, DNS poisoning, domain hijacking, man in the middle, zero-day replay, pass the hash, then talk a bunch about hijacking related attacks like clickjacking, session hijacking, URL hijacking, typo squatting, talk about driver manipulation, shimming, refactoring, MAC spoofing, and IP spoofing. And you think we're done with 1.2, but we're not. There's more in 1.2. This covers wireless attacks, replay, IV or initialization variables, the evil twin, rogue AP, jamming, WPS, blue jacking, blue snarfing, RFID, NFC, and disassociation. A lot of stuff in there. Wireless is big. And also we'll talk about crypto in 1.2. Birthday attacks, known or plain text attacks, rainbow tables, dictionary attacks, brute force, online versus offline, collision attacks, downgrade, replay, and weak implementations. And wow, there's a lot in 1.2, right? We got a lot to cover. So we finally make it to 1.3. This we talks about explain threat actors, types, and their attributes. So, what are the types of actors? Well, script kiddies, hacktivists, organized crime, nation states, and advanced persistent threats, insiders, competitors, and then the attributes of those actors: internal versus external, their level of sophistication, their resources and funding, their intent or their motivation. How does that play into them being able to carry out an effective attack? And then use of open source intelligence. How does the bad guy find out stuff about you and your organization? And that's what this is all about. Open source. 3.4, explain penetration testing concepts. What's active reconnaissance, passive reconnaissance, pivot, initial exploitation, persistence, escalation of privileges. Then we also talk about different types of attacks or different types of penetration tests: black box, white box, gray box, and the difference between penetration testing and vulnerability scanning. It's a pretty big difference, and we need to know what's up with that. Then we jump into 1.5, explain vulnerability scanning concepts. Speaking of vulnerability scanning, passive test security controls, identification of vulnerabilities, identifying the lack of security controls, identifying common misconfigurations in systems and software, intrusive versus non-intrusive, what can get you in trouble in a scanning event, credentialed versus non-credentials, and then what we do about false positives. And then the last subdomain. And you can see there's a lot of stuff on this chart, but not as much as way back in 1.2. And this explains the impact associated with the types of vulnerabilities. So race conditions, and then vulnerabilities due to end-of-life systems or embedded systems or lack of vendor support, improper input handling, improper error handling, misconfiguration and weak configuration, default configurations, resource exhaustion, untrained users, improperly configured accounts, vulnerable business processes, weak cipher suites and implementation, buffer and memory overflows, including memory leaks, integer overflows, buffer overflows, pointer differences and DLL injections, system sprawls and undocumented assets, huge in our virtualization now, architecture design and weaknesses, new threats and zero-day attacks, improper certificate and key management. Wow, that's a huge amount of stuff to cover for 19 questions, but you don't know where they're going to pick those 19 questions out of. So you need to know these things. You need to know these things for the exam. That's important. But you also need to know these things when you go to work in your security job. So when you go to work in that job as a security analyst or security associate or whatever the title is, when you start your job in security, they're going to expect you to know these things. So this is the foundational level. This is looking at the things that can attack your system. So we'll cover a lot in Domain 1. Jump in, learn this stuff. It's going to be a good ride. So, as you know, I'm always going to say it because that's what we say on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell. Hit the bell. You'll be notified when we have new stuff out. If you've been watching the channel at all, if you've been watching Cyber-Recon on YouTube at all this week, you know that we're dumping a lot of videos out there. So we'll want you to hit the bell. Let us know. All right, that will let you know when these things are coming out. So if you're following along on that list, you know some of the stuff is already out there on videos right now. So we want to get you trained in April for the Security Plus exam. So join along, like, comment, subscribe. Comment is important. I want to know what you guys think about this process. So as always, I'm Jim. We'll see you next time on Cyber-Recon, and especially for our Cup of Cyber. Hope you enjoy the day. Be safe out there, and we will talk later.